I would be in 3 rehabs in jail. I got locked up for paraphernalia, for drinking 40s behind a giant, and then ultimately I got locked up for trying to rob a store. If you release my grandson, he's gonna die. So look, my old man's in the next room, so I gotta kind of like be a little quiet. No, I'm just kidding. My family raised me very well. You know, my dad's former military, my mom was a super mom. I was raised in like a Brady Bunch household up until, I wanna say like 13, 14, my parents got divorced. You know, mom had some things going on and had to go, you know, get that stuff figured out. And that was really hard for me because I was 13, I was 14. I just didn't process it well, man. My little brother, I had a little brother that counted on me, but I was a kid myself. And what it did was make me really, really angry. I got into a lot of fights. I rebelled in school. You know, I went from being like in honors classes and AP classes to just like A-level, the most basic of basic. I just kind of gave up on school and those pursuits. I just went more into partying, girls, and fighting. That was the best outlet for me at the time. But ultimately, guys, I was raised by 2 great parents. You know, just because they didn't work out doesn't have any bearings on what would ultimately happen to me later on. So somehow, miraculously, I get off my ass enough. Because look, man, when I want to, when I really put my mind to something, I'm gonna go get it, right? It's just during that time, man, I didn't really put my mind to much except partying. But I still cared enough what other people thought about me and at least a glimpse of my future that I wanted to apply myself enough to try to get into a real college. I went to community college. I hunkered down, got my grades to where they needed to be to actually get accepted into University of Maryland, which is a good school. And I did go there for a whole semester. And then I followed the girl that I was dating to a D3 school. So I went from a D1 school that I worked really hard to get into for 1 semester, changed my major, went off to a D3 school because I wanted to be with the girl. I go off to school, join a fraternity, continue my party lifestyle, having a blast, thinking I'm the man, probably pretty arrogant, probably kind of a shitbag, my now wife would say that I was. I've neglected to mention, my freshman year of college, I got in a car accident. That car accident broke my leg in 11 places. Had to get my entire leg rebuilt, almost lost it. Took me out of school for a semester and they prescribed me painkillers. So you guys might see that show, what is it, Painkiller, actually. And then there's Dope Sick. I could have been on one of those shows. You know what I mean? I was kind of like frat bro, party guy, normal dude. You know, worst case, like fights, just like any other normal young guy, you know. 2, guy taking pills. Things are okay for about 3 years, to be honest with you, man, all the way up to my senior year of college. Until I had my last surgery and they're like, are you done with these? My dad actually did that. He called the doctor and was like, dude, you're taking way too many of these. It's been like 2-3 years. Either you're addicted or you're selling them. Joke's on him, it was both. I was doing both, but I was terrible at selling them because I just buy them all back. So things started to go downhill really, really quick. In the next year, in 2010, I'd break up with that one girl. She had been through so much, man. And then I found a new girl, and you know, it's always a girl or something that's gonna fix me or like fill some void that was missing. Take her hostage for this crazy ride. And then the next year, by 2010, I would be in 3 rehabs in jail. You know, the first time I go into rehab, I'm really excited. I wanna get it right, but there's so much to learn, man. I was so young. I couldn't comprehend. I could comprehend I wasn't supposed to do drugs. I couldn't comprehend the recovery thing or like going to these meetings or not drinking, not partying. That was so much of my identity and I just couldn't grasp it, man. And so I couldn't put down the booze, that's for sure. And that always led me back to the pills. I am gone from college graduate, barely, but college graduate, to full-blown criminal, stealing from all my family, from my loved ones, the people that I love the most. The people that you love the most end up getting hurt the most. The need for that substance is the same as breathing. You just got to have it. I can't be sober, I don't feel comfortable. I can't breathe without it, right? So like the drive there is what leads you to do these crazy things even though you don't want to do them. And you're stealing from your grandmother. My grandmother was my biggest fan, my biggest supporter up until the day she died. And I would, you know, you'd steal from her that night and she'd give it to you the next day. And I hated myself for that. Whether I'm stealing change, checks, it doesn't matter, man. If I can and you're around me and I care about you, even though I care about you, I'm a liability. That version of me, you know? And I hated myself for it. Finally, I ended up kicked out, and I'm skipping past a whole lot of in and outs. I go to Eastern Shore, Salisbury, Maryland, one last rehab attempt. That rehab puts me in a halfway house. I made it 2 weeks. But at the time, the state funding just wasn't what it is now for these things, right? Like they realized that these things are serious, serious problems, so they have great programs now. Back then, I got like 3 to 5 days. And so I was still physically sick when they let me go and they put me in this halfway house. And that's not an excuse, I just wasn't ready. But I wasn't exactly set up for success either. So the second I got some money sent to me for some groceries, it went to something else. I made it 2 weeks, got kicked out, and now I'm living on the street in Salisbury. That lasted for a few months, a few months longer than it should have, before finally I got locked up for paraphernalia, for drinking 40s behind a giant. And then ultimately I got locked up for trying to rob a store. I remember this time being locked up, because the other times I knew there was a chance I was going to get out, and I knew the force that drove me was so strong that I was going to do whatever it took to get out, right? My grandmother, actually, my other grandmother, my mom's mom, called the judge, because she had worked for a judge her whole life. So she called the local judge and was like, look, you know, I've worked for the court system my whole life. If you release my grandson, he's going to die. And so they upped my bond from $50K to $500K. That's how that happened. But I remember when I got out of that bail hearing, I was like, or that bond review, I was like, damn, dude, like, I was so blown. But I saw this dude, Bubba, big, white, tattooed, shaved head, exactly what you think of when you hear Bubba in prison or jail. Looked just like that. And actually what he first said to me, because he was in the room, he was like, damn, dude, God must love you. That's what he said. And he meant that, like, for God to keep me there, he must be trying to save you. And he was right, man. If I would have got back on the streets, I'd be dead. There's just no way. There's just no way. I didn't care. I had no regard for my life. I didn't want to be doing what I was doing. I didn't know. I just didn't know how to get out. So jail helped. I sat for a year, over a year. They ended up giving me 10 years, all suspended, but 18 months. A felony. So now I'm a college graduate with a felony. Didn't matter that I didn't have a record before that. I had racked up a record that last year, and they didn't care, you know. Now I'm on food stamps. Now I'm on government aid. You know what I mean? They're helping me with my living space. You know what I mean? Even though the rent was very minimal, I didn't have anything, nothing. I had no job, no future, no nothing. But I was so grateful to not have to figure out where I was going to sleep at night. I didn't care that I was sharing a room with other men because I had my own bed. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was very grateful. So here's some things that really helped me. Right? My attitude shifted. My attitude went from fuck it, I'm done, I'm dead, I can never get out, to okay, let's try. Let's give it one last shot, man. Let's really give this our all. But I didn't try to fix everything all at once. I focused on the very first thing I could, which, let's just stay sober, bro. Let's just stay sober. Then I get in the halfway house. All right, I need to get some kind of job. But I got no wheels, I got no license, I got no money, I got nothing, right? I don't have any tools or anything like that. Raise my hand somewhere, I'm in a meeting or something, I say I need some work. Next morning at 4 a.m. I get a knock on my room, and he's like, yo, can you paint? I was like, yep, sure. He could have said anything, I would have said yes, because I need to work. And an attitude of gratitude, people want to help people like that. That guy was like, look, man, you got a good attitude. If you keep that attitude, you can succeed. And that man, everything that happened in my life, even up until this point, led up to making me to the individual that I am now. And I'm proud of that individual. And I'm uniquely prepared to handle certain things. And I am uniquely prepared to give back certain things because of these experiences. I started paying off debts little by little because I thought there's no way I'll ever get out of debt. In fact, I went and met with an attorney, a young attorney, friend of mine, an ex-fling that I had right before everything fell apart. She knew my story. She hated me before, but now she knew I was trying to get my shit together. She agreed to meet with me and give me some legal advice because I told her I was going to declare bankruptcy. She looks at all my debts and she's like, look, man, this isn't anything. I know it looks like a lot to you, but you can get out of this. Don't do this. It's going to ruin 7 years of your life. Just one step at a time. So I did. I started paying back phone bills, credit card bills, little debts, right? Like little ones I put a whole list. I had a journal. A list of people and institutions I owed back, starting with the smallest to the biggest. And I started with the smallest, and I just, one at a time, worked my way up to the biggest. Phones, credit cards, personal debts, people, right? I couldn't get a bank account. I had to go get a green dot card. Prison guys know what that is. I learned resilience. So I was homeless 6 years ago, eating and stealing from Giant to survive. And in the last year, I bought my first house. I got married to that attorney that was trying to help me file bankruptcy, and again, had she done so, we wouldn't have this house, I wouldn't have a business. So that decision impacted her and my life way more than she would have ever known back then. That's God. That's not a coincidence. That's the universe, that's God, that's not a coincidence. Bought my first house, renovated her house, we got married, so now we have 2 properties. So I've got a little teeny mini real estate portfolio because I had no properties 6 months ago. I've traveled once a month to Texas. I've stayed and learned from some of the best people and heroes of mine within the industry. I've developed a relationship and a mentorship from Ryan Stewman, that's somebody I look up to and I've gotten to work with. I've developed friendships with men in the Andy Elliott Army, the Elliott Group, that people that I look up to. I have aligned myself with some of the most successful folks in that industry and other industries and real estate. I'm learning from these people. I'm traveling once a month. I got to leave the country. I went to Santorini, Greece on my honeymoon, place that like only exists in dreams. I never would have thought I would have been there. I was just there a month ago. My life is a blessing, man. It's a movie, right? It's a fucking dream come true, and it's a testament to if you just don't give up, even though shit seems hard and like, oh, I'm a felon, I can't do this. You can. I didn't think I could get my fucking license to do any of this. It took me a year to get it because of my background, but I got it. And the reason why I'm passionate about making sure that I don't leave any of the gory details out, I'm telling you, you can get out of it. It might seem insurmountable, it might seem like too much. My suggestion would be start small. What is the next right step I can make? And just start with that. Worry about crossing that off your list and then get to the next one. But it is possible. Now, thank you so much, guys, for listening to my story. I love you guys. I hope you guys check me out down the road. And I hope that you check out my sales content if that's what you're into, my motivational content. But we love you guys and we thank you for your support.